now been 4 weeks since we added the honey supers to these hives. By now, these supers should be full of honey. In fact, there should be at least another honey super on each hive. But as you can see, there isn't a drop of surplus honey in these supers. Well, what has gone wrong? Well, actually, nothing has gone wrong. This is something that can happen to newly established package colonies. So actually, I'm glad this has happened to us here. This way, you can benefit from our experience and plan a course of action if this should happen to you. Remember that we bought our bees from a supplier and installed them in hives in early spring. If our colonies had been mature and fully built up, they would have stored that early nectar as honey that we could have harvested. However, young packaged colonies are at a disadvantage compared to fully mature colonies that come through the winter. These immature colonies used that early nectar to make more brood and bees instead of honey for us. In this area, the eastern Piedmont of Georgia, the main nectar flows from the tulip poplar, which occurs in April and May. So here we are, the 1st of June. The bees are ready to start storing nectar, but there's no nectar flow. Well, fortunately, there is another chance to make a honey crop this year. It will require more work and planning, but the payoff should be well worth it. We're going to move the hives to the mountains of North Georgia, where the bees can collect nectar from the soon-to-be flowering sourwood trees. Sourwood grows throughout the southern Appalachian Mountains. Its nectar is light, the honey is flavorful, and many consider it to be the best honey made in the United States. Lots of beekeepers move their hives to areas with good nectar flows, and even hobbyists can find that worthwhile.
When you're moving bees, you want to trap all bees inside the hives, but at the same time, keep hives well ventilated to prevent suffocation. Close up hives just before the move in late evening or early morning when bees are not flying and it's cooler. We're beginning our preparation for moving in the late evening. During summer evenings, bees cluster outside the hive entrance, much like people sitting on their front porch. If you leave these bees behind, there will be a pile of lost, disoriented bees on the ground the next morning. So, puff them with your smoker to drive them inside, then close up the entrance with a screen. Use a piece of window screen cut to fit the opening. Fold it lengthwise and insert it in the entrance. Stuff the corners with wadded newspaper to make the screen fit tightly. Seal other openings and cracks with duct tape. You must fasten the supers together with special hive staples. Don't trust the propolis and beeswax to hold the hive together. And here's a word of caution. Don't nail the staples parallel to each other, because they will then act as hinges and the boxes will come apart. Here's the extra work part. This is definitely a two-person job. Carefully lift the entire hive by the bottom board, trying not to jostle it around too much. The bees will get angry and protective, so take precautions. Secure the hives on the trailer to prevent any movement. everything you'll need to reestablish the hives, including the concrete blocks. By moving our hives, we have become migratory beekeepers. This is not at all unusual. In fact, thousands of beehives are trucked all over the United States each year as beekeepers catch different nectar flows. For example, a beekeeper in North Dakota may move his hives to Florida in early spring to get orange honey, then return his hives north in time to get clover honey. By moving bees, a beekeeper can maximize his crop and collect different varieties of honey. When you arrive at the new site, set up the hives with the same care as when you first established them. Now, some more honey and bee trivia. 2,000 commercial beekeepers in the United States rent almost 2 million colonies each year for crop pollination. This represents 60 billion bees. Properly maintained beehives are aesthetically pleasing in a landscape, and beekeepers should always keep up a good image of their craft to non-beekeeping neighbors. This includes mowing the grass. With a few precautions, grass in front of beehives can be mowed with little disturbance to the bees. Always aim the lawnmower so that the clippings and exhaust vent away from the hive entrance. Clippings and exhaust blown into the entrance infuriate bees. For this reason, I always walk the mower backwards when I'm cutting grass at the hive entrance. This allows me to pass the entrance before the bees emerge, after the lawnmower has passed. Wear a veil. With the noise from the lawnmower, you can't hear a bee that is threatening you, and without a veil, you may get stung without warning. It's been a busy spring with a lot of hard work, but now the hives have a good chance to make a honey crop. This would not have been possible without our intense management. Let's go over the most important points. Remember, our goal is to maximize colony populations before the major nectar flows. We do this by feeding bees, medicating them, and making sure each hive has an egg-laying queen. In a way, we did not succeed at this because the hives were still growing while the tulip poplar trees were blooming, so we didn't get any surplus poplar honey. But we have another chance. The hives are now at full strength and on location in the mountains for the imminent sourwood bloom. If the weather cooperates, we should have a very sweet reward for all our labors. I'm glad you joined us today, and I hope you watch again.